Right, good morning everyone. It's really brilliant to be here in Liverpool and sort of have a chat with these amazing people for the next half hour. So thanks Lynn for the introduction. Just a bit of background. So as Lynn said, I work for an organisation called Creative UK. So Creative UK is the national membership body for the cultural and creative industries. So we exist to champion creativity in its widest form, and we represent sectors right across the creative industry, so from animation to architecture, broadcasting, crafts, design, digital education, fashion, games, heritage, music, performing arts, photography, everything, lot and much more. And we're an independent not-for-profit organisation, and we use our insight and experience of our members to help to shape change that will benefit businesses. And our vision is to ensure there is a world where people like yourselves who are involved in developing creative businesses are valued and recognised as the driving force for our future. We're also so passionate about the work that we do that we kind of put our money where our mouth is. And we are also an investor. So through support that we get from regional government, but also from commercial banks, we invest in creative businesses to help them grow and thrive. And our team is based across the UK, and we work very closely with local and combined authorities, again, to do a lot of place-based work. And the team last year worked very closely with Steve and his colleagues when we created a creative pavilion as part of the Labour Party conference last September here in Liverpool, which was absolutely brilliant. So we brought together two amazing people. We were expecting to also have Kim McGuinness, who I know really well, who is the North East Combined Authority Mayor. Unfortunately, Kim is not very well, so she wasn't able to join us. But as I'm based in the North East, I wouldn't ever speak for Kim, but I can speak very highly about her and her commitment to supporting the growth of creative industries, both across the north and in the northeast. So, introduce firstly Steve Rotheram. Obviously, he is the mayor of the Liverpool City region. Before that, he was an MP, and I asked him before we came on the stage, just whether I was allowed to say that what Steve started his life as a bricklayer, but it was really impressive. Wikipedia's brilliant. He started as a bricklayer, I think, when he was in your early 20s, and then set his own construction company up when he was 22. And obviously has been based in the north as a serving MP, and obviously became the mayor of the city region in 2017 and was re-elected in 2024. So welcome, and we'll hear a bit more from you later. And next, obviously, we've got Jude Kelly, another Liverpudlian, who's a theatre director and producer, director of the WOW Foundation, which organises the Women of the World Festival. And I'm really delighted that some of the work that they're doing is going to be showcased in Durham later on this year. So it's really great work. She was also artistic director of the South Bank Centre. She's also on Creative UK's board, so we see each other regularly, and is always doing amazing things to champion the sector. So I'm excited to hear more from them. So let's kind of kick off with the discussions. So the aim of this event is to get some insight into the opportunities for the creative sector across the north, centred around the theme of collaboration. So what I want to do firstly is kind of go to Jude and ask her to tell us a bit more about what's been going on. There's been some discussions you may have or may not have heard about the idea of creating a thing which is called One Creative North. So I think what we're going to do sort of for this session is kind of just to find a bit more about it, what that means, what it'll mean for you, what the benefits are. So, okay. Jude.
Thank you, and thanks for having me, everybody. I'm going to give you a snapshot of why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I think it's very timely in terms of what the government and the combined authorities are all thinking, and what I think it could have in store for us all if we could get behind it. So my dad's one of 14 children. I was brought up in Liverpool. I am an absolute example of upward mobility because somebody bothered to point me in the direction of the arts. In fact, it was a doctor because I had flat feet, so I was sent to dancing classes. And the amazing opportunities I got in Liverpool are the reason why I would fight to the death for the idea that every single child, every single person has the right to explore their own creativity, and it's there waiting for them if somebody will just put them in that right direction. So at the bottom of everything I do is the idea of the human rights to creativity. I just put that as one thing. The second thing is to say that when I was growing up in Liverpool, and I was here, right up until I went to university, I always felt a complete rivalry to Manchester. I mean, I hated Manchester just for existing. And I didn't really understand what Yorkshire was. I went to eventually run the West Yorkshire Playhouse. In fact, I founded the West Yorkshire Playhouse. I was there for 12 years. And I certainly had never got as far as the North East. But now that I can see the incredible sort of fertility of ideas across the whole of the North, I wonder why we have always been allowed to be divided and ruled, really. I was asked by the 7 mayors of the combined authorities, plus the combined authorities that don't yet have mayors, to help develop a concept called One Creative North. It isn't a job. I haven't got a job doing this. This is just like a thought leadership exercise to demonstrate what is our potential. Now, this is a really important moment in time because you might all know, so excuse me if I'm telling you obvious things, that the current government has come up with an industrial strategy. And I think for the first time, they have labelled one of the pillars of this, the creative industries. And that means that they are gearing towards thinking that the creative industries is one way to drive the economy forward in a positive way, but also for that to be a method of better community cohesion, well-being, all the health outputs that we want, etc. And so on the back of that, and combined with devolution, these mayoral authorities have said, why don't we give the government the clarity that if we combined in the North all the things that we're able to do, show them what we have done, which is pretty amazing, write the story differently and demonstrate what we could do if we combined in certain ways, then actually we could deserve and get a lot more financial investment, and we could make that investment really pay in the future. So let's be clear then, like what it isn't. One Creative North at the moment is not an organisation with a secretariat and a board. It has none of those things yet. It just has me talking to some people. But we are going to produce a report before the spending review, and then probably a response after the spending review that says this is what we could do if we all work together. Every single city region has an amazing history, and Steve's going to tell you what an incredible place Liverpool city region is. So this is not about trying to sort of homogenise the personality of each place at all, at all. That would be a disaster. Actually, what we need to do is the opposite. We need to create the equivalent of like brilliant planets in the sky, all with their own personalities. But what we can say is there are things that we know we could do better altogether. And I'll give you one example. Skills, right? Whether you're talking to Channel 4, BBC, ITV, any film production company, any games company, any company of any kind, small, medium or large, they will all say that what we don't have in the North is a kind of ability for people to grow up, work here, knowing that they will be able to stay in employment, scale up their power and their expertise. And if people come on a one-off job from somewhere, they can't be guaranteed to be able to stay. And that's a mistake. We need to tackle the idea that all these skills, methodologies around the North are all different, they don't match with each other, they're not tying up together, and we've got to change that. We have to change the story of the North. I'm fed up with people always, the go-to for the North is how dour we are, how grim we are, etc., etc. And, we have to grab that narrative and defy it and come up with, really what we are doing, which is extraordinary and could be even more so. We have got sectors that are investment ready, as they say, but what we don't have is financial literacy, and I include myself here. We haven't got proper financial literacy. We can talk about investment, but we don't really fully know what are all the different kinds of blended finances that we could have, and how would we need to get them, and how does that relate to the subsidized sector, etc., etc. So financial literacy, and I would chuck in digital literacy, is another one that we need to fast forward for our own sakes. And then there are key sectors within the North that, yes, say, let's take film and production, Liverpool famous for it, but it could also be Liverpool and. It could be Liverpool and somewhere else to do with music. It could be Liverpool and somewhere else to do with gaming, etc., etc. So we're trying to demonstrate where the hot spots are in each place and then look what it would be like if you clustered it. Now, this clustering phrase is, been around for a while. We're talking about, well, obviously, Baltic Triangle, amazing cluster. What happens if you build more than the sum of its parts? You can do so much more with it. But what happens if we get more than just the clusters and we put them together as, well, people are talking about corridors. I can't think of the North as a corridor, because for me a corridor belongs to my school and it's just long and thin. But, a humongous space, the North, we can't really call it a humongous space, but that's really what we need to do. What can we do if we do it together? That isn't going to eat into our individuality, but is going to make it more than the sum of its parts. I'll just stop there. Thanks.
Thanks, Jude. And now I'd like to go to Steve just to give his sort of political perspective in terms of the importance, but perhaps also reflect, and I think, Jude's also talked about that. I loved the sort of explanation of, or the analogy of the planets aligning. It's kind of how do we keep our own uniqueness, our uniqueness of place, but also look at that opportunity for collaboration. Steve.
Well, welcome to the UK's cultural capital. How many people are not from Liverpool or the city region? Okay, well, quite a few. I've just hot-footed it now from what's called the UK Ireland Summit, where both Prime Ministers, the Prime Minister and the Taoiseach, have just held a round table. And I'm just wondering, for those people not from Liverpool, even from people who know this place well, could you ever imagine 30, 40 years ago that they'd hold a summit and a Prime Minister from the UK would choose Liverpool to host that summit? And that's the huge difference. I thought someone was smoking at the back there, by the way. That's the huge difference that we've seen happen since, I believe, a pivotal moment in our history, which was when we were the European capital of culture in 2008. And that transformed people's perceptions and often their misperceptions of this wonderful city and city region. And that was predicated on our culture. It was capital of culture, so it was all about the creative industries. And you can see in this building and around here what happens when you invest in culture, because whilst this wasn't all planned, this is more organic, the growth around the Baltic Triangle. What this has facilitated is wider regeneration. And if you go out and have a look, I'm just trying to orientate myself, I think it's that way, you'll see that there are plans already for a brand new rail station that's going to be built just outside here, because what this culture has done, this creativity sector has done, is to attract footfall. And with that, then you can get things like a train station, which is going to cost over £100 million. But then you're starting to see other developments happening around it. So for me, the creative sector, culture, is not an add-on. It's not something that we'd just like to do. It's something that actually has an economic benefit, a wider economic benefit to areas. It makes people feel good, of course, but it can attract businesses, and that's what we've done. I think the clustering effect is absolutely right that you've seen happening around here. Just to touch on some of the things that we're quite good at, we're the most filmed city and area outside of London, but I'm not just happy with them coming in with the cameras and using our great places as a backdrop and then buggering off and we never see them again. We want to retain more of what they do when they come here. So post-production, for instance, We want more of that in our city region. We've got a massive gaming sector. Again, I think it too often keeps its light under this bushel. For instance, Sony's headquarters for Q&A is here, for quality assurance rather, is here in Liverpool, and many people won't know that, but there's a whole host like Avalanche and loads of really good studios that have chosen the Liverpool City region, and have chosen it because, quite frankly, we've got the best digital connectivity in the whole country. And part of what AI will do is to bring in some of those young and thriving and entrepreneurial companies. And we've got, as I say, the best digital connectivity in the whole country. It's not just the best, it connects to the Hartree supercomputer, and the Hartree supercomputer is the most sophisticated computer in the country. And that gives the capacity for big data analytics. So there's lots of things that you can test out because of the infrastructure that we've built. The ecosystem, working with, I say, our universities are here. Our universities are absolutely vital, not just to provide the pipeline of talent, but also to look at what the future needs of places like ours would be. If you go on to film, we are about to see investment into something called Littlewoods. It used to be the Littlewoods building. If you've come in on the motorway, you'll have come off and gone down Edge Lane. That Littlewoods building, which was, you know, an iconic building of our city region, that's going to be transformed into a massive film studio with really big names who are backing it up. And to tell you the truth, we can pick out lots and lots of things. I haven't even mentioned music. Do you know, we had a band here once who did all right as well. But there's lots and lots of real talent, and it's about nurturing the talent and providing the opportunities for those people through working with each other, through collaboration, through us providing the framework, us providing support, and we have done massively for the creative sector. Just to let you know, if you go back and speak to your Metro mayors, Kim was going to be here. I was going to mention we have something called 1% for culture. 1% of all our funding is peeled off, and we specifically identified that for culture. I'm more ambitious than that, and there will be an announcement, not today unfortunately, but about an increase in that percentage for culture, because we see that it can act as a catalyst for regeneration. And that's why I think this sector is so important to us. And just on a final note about, because you've asked about the uniqueness about what we do here, there's genuinely something in the DNA of people. When you have a look at how many people from this place, from our background, have gone on throughout all of the creative sectors, whether it's people you see on telly, but whether it's people that you don't even know. But these people are very proudly from Liverpool and the city region, and they're in every single facet of the creative sector. And that's why I think it's probably something in the water, but it's okay, you can drink it. It's a fantastic place with fantastic people.
Brilliant, thank you. That's fantastic, Steve. That's really, really encouraging. I mean, I think it's a really, really exciting time, and I think, you know, the point that Jude made, and, you know, we've both worked in the sector for a long, long time and seen it kind of go up and down and up and down. And, you know, it's the first time in my career where, you know, we've had a national government that has taken the sector and businesses seriously. And there was also an announcement in January. So we hosted an event in the Northeast where the Secretary of State announced funding, both some capital investment, but also further opportunities coming down the line. And she identified sort of key areas that were getting enhanced support. Liverpool was one of them, the North East, West Yorkshire. And I think that the reason for that is because of the commitment in those places for the sector and that support. And I think, you know, places like Baltic Triangle are fantastic. And I think there's also sort of something that can work around sort of learning and collaboration across the north. So I was talking to, I think, Fiona before I came on, because I'm with another hat on doing some work in Sunderland. So I don't know if there's anyone in the room from Sunderland today, but there's loads happening there. And again, the City Council are really backing the sector, and there's some investment, and there's some interesting places that are, you know, have some brilliant creative people, but there's more that can be done. And I think, you know, that opportunity to collaborate, Sunderland is a UNESCO City of Culture, links with Liverpool, you know, it's already starting to happen. So I think, you know, watch this space. And I think that there's also something interesting also about the sector as how we evolve, because I think a lot of the jobs that we're talking about in the future don't exist yet. So if you think about, you know, jobs that people do now, social media, etc., you know, 10, 15 years ago, that didn't exist. So again, it's that sort of thinking of the sector being fleet of foot in that sense. So I think, you know, sort of listening to Jude and Steve, there are some huge opportunities for collaboration, so funding, and I think, you know, that thinking about how we coalesce investment and get more investment into the region, you know, encouraging everybody to become more financially literate. Sorry, I can't even say that word. Digital literacy you talked about, networks and collaborations, and again, that's already happening. So, for example, the North, there is a delegation at the moment out in South by Southwest, and again, I think that's the first time that's happened. There's been lots of pockets of people, oh, we go to South by Southwest, so why don't we all collaborate together and actually make a big shout out about what it's like to be in the North. So that's something to build on. I suppose I just want to touch on that, because I think we've looked kind of inwards in thinking about the international collaborations, and obviously we've had challenges in recent years, obviously with Brexit, etc. How do you think the North can look outwardly in terms of those opportunities? I mean, Liverpool does brilliant work in that area, but again, what else do you think we could do, Steve?
Well, we are doing some of that, in all honesty. I mean, I think we can always improve on what we've already started to achieve. But if you have a look, for instance, the very fact that myself and somebody you won't have heard of called Andy Burnham from Greater Manchester working so collectively on big projects to try and get them into the Northwest. And Cheshire are about to get a devolution agreement, and all of a sudden now you've got it'll be three people who will be heading up that geography and that population, which is bigger than the size of Ireland. And so you can see that the obvious synergies that exist there need to be teased out. So whilst, you know, Manchester do TV, and it's no good competing if they've got all of those great buildings and that industry there. But we're doing film. Now, what's the link up between TV and film? And it's that sort of stuff. You know, we've got culture. Manchester have got something else. No, I'm taking the pay. Don't tweet that, by the way. I had a load of Mancunians going, we've got culture, we've got Oasis. But no, we've both got brilliant cultures and really good, strong sectors. But when you bring them together, it's greater than the sum of its parts. So we're doing a lot more of that sort of stuff. And then if you just take, for instance, what we've done on music, and the very fact that I was at something called Noise the other day, and we do obviously celebrate our historical music importance and preeminence. Of course we do. But beyond that, there's a lot of young bands, and we're providing a platform for those young bands and singers. There was some brilliant artists the other night. Nee Maxine, if people don't know, she's absolutely phenomenal. But listen to some of the young bands in Liverpool that are coming through at the moment in the city region and in Manchester. That's the
Newcastle
future.
And Sunderland.
But that's the future, really, because we do obsess with what's gone on previously. Actually, there's so much talent, and what we need is more people more businesses like this to provide a stage for those talents.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so I suppose I want to go back to Jude and maybe talk about next steps and how people in the room can help in terms of what the opportunities are.
Yeah, okay. So, first of all, the interesting thing, you can hear from Steve is I've never known so many heads of political authorities who are genuinely personally loving culture. And I think that's a product, actually, of the diversification of culture and the creative industries over the last 30 years. We no longer define culture as the high arts. We define culture as this kind of smorgasbord of many, many things, and you represent that world. It's really critical that at a grassroots level, at an ordinary business level, at an ordinary organizational level, that as much curiosity as you can muster, bearing in mind it's hard just doing your own stuff, to start looking at, well, what other partnerships you could have outside your own region? Like, where could you find more fertility, more ideas, more tie-ups? Because money always follows ideas. It's not the other way around. There isn't a magic pot of money that's suddenly going to land on the idea of one creative north to be distributed. What's going to happen is when people are come together with thoughts about how the gaming industry could be boosted further by working cross-region, how music can work cross-region with real tangible ideas, that is when I think funding will start being released. Because in the end, yes, this is about economic growth. It has to be about community well-being as well. So I don't want to only speak the language of, of fiscal success, but we are talking as well about competing against the Southeast economy, about saying, there's no reason why we shouldn't be so much stronger than we are. But it does start, as Carol said, with collaboration. And you can hear how proud Steve is of everything that he's doing. But that doesn't mean that we have to actually literally be aggressors against, another group of people. One of the problems I think has happened over many years, and it's particularly true of skills, is that we've been forced to compete with each other for money. And it has produced quite sour tastes at times. Now, I'm not sure that that's going to go away easily, but we have to rise above it and be more sophisticated and write our own rules. So back to Carol's question, what can you do? I think demonstrate as much as possible where you are working, not just for your own city region, but across other city regions, and what you think the benefits could be of that. And if you haven't got alliances yet, or you're not part of a group alliance, join alliances. So I know that we're launching a kind of literature and spoken word alliance soon across the whole of the creative north. There are music alliances, there are gaming alliances, but they're not actually grabbing everybody that could be involved. So be involved in the idea of the north, as opposed to just Liverpool, brilliant as Liverpool is. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. We've run out of time. That was fantastic, and I think that's a key message to you all, to collaborate, support each other, be positive. I know it's a bit shit at the minute, but, sorry for swearing this early in the morning, globally. But I think, we've got a lot to offer. Thank you.